This happened 2 months ago, and it was a school night. My mom told me that she was going to Walmart, and I quickly yelled, "Can I come?" from upstairs. My mom agreed and took me and my newly born sister with us, since my dad was in his deep slumber. The drive to Walmart isn't at all important to this story, so we'll skip that part. My mom reaches Walmart and parks our car. As we head inside, I spot a man coming from around the corner, and because of the paranoid person that I am, I kept repeating to myself under my breath, "Creepy man entered after us." My mom goes to grab a cart, and this man basically ran to give her one instead. My mom just thought he was being nice and said thank you while putting my sister in the seat. The man is very ugly, and pardon me if I'm rude, but I was always taught to tell the truth. So I just glare at him and tell my mom to just go ahead and that the thanks was over. I kept repeating what just happened over and over again in my mind, thinking that he was so odd. The rest of the trip was going okay, nothing too out of the ordinary, until it became time for my mom to check out at the self checkout. The man who seemed to appear out of literally nowhere walks up behind me and my mom. I turn sideways and step closer to my mom while looking at this man in such a nasty glare that I see a frown start to appear on his face. Finally, one of the checkouts turned green and my mom goes to scan her things. Finally, I thought, and help my mom scan the few things we had bought so we can get out of there as soon as possible. I think that we're in the clear as we have finished scanning and putting everything in the bags. While walking to the car, my mom happens to look around and she says, "Oh, honey, look, it's the friendly man." I felt my heart literally drop. I looked to see where he was, and he was literally just 30 feet away from us. I tell my mom to hurry and that he gave me bad vibes, while she was just laughing, saying I was being rude and he probably wanted to talk. I snapped back in this shaky voice, saying, "Mom, you have two children, one a 3-month old and one which is 13. You also don't have a husband by your side, and it's dark. Do you really think he wants to talk?" This finally made my mom hurry enough for us to reach the car in under 6 seconds. As my mom had only grabbed a few things, it would be relatively easy to put everything in the back of the car and start driving off in under 30 seconds. But we didn't have 20 seconds as the man who was 30 feet away was now getting closer and closer at an alarming rate until he finally reached our car, heavy breathing, and said, "Phew, took a while to catch up with you guys." I must have looked so frightened that that man looked at me with a weird smile and said, "What are you scared of, darling? I'm not the boogeyman." I gave my mom this look, and she simply joked around with him, saying, "I don't know what's gotten into her. Teenagers are so emotional these days." I became so mad and frustrated, I just sighed and got into the car, tears carelessly dropping from my eyes, and just thought to myself, what the actual fuck? Does my mom know she could get us killed? After a few minutes go by of their loud laughter and chatting, Mom comes in and says, "Well, that wasn't so bad, was it?" I called her ignorant and careless, and she just scoffed. So I, 18 female, worked at a bakery, and it's not often that we get creepy people as customers. But the other day, as I was working at the register, an older man walks in. As always, I say, "Hi, welcome in, how are you?" He didn't look at me or acknowledge what I said. He immediately pointed to a cookie and asked what flavor it was, to which I said the name of it. Then he asked what all was in it. I started listing out what was in it, and he cuts me off and said, "Stop," all frustrated like. Then he finally looks at me and leans his face over the counter till he was about a foot away from my face, and he says, "Wow, you are a really pretty girl. You're so attractive. You know that, right?" I just said thanks in monotone and looked down at the ordering screen because I felt very uncomfortable, and it gets worse. He then continues to say, "You must get that a lot, don't you? That you're so, so beautiful." And I said, no, not really." And he says, "Oh, well, you're such a beautiful girl. How old are you anyways? 14, 15?" Surely you're 15, eh? That's when my gut was telling me something is wrong with this dude. And I looked up at him and said coldly, "No, I'm an adult." And he gets all angsty with his body language and says, "But what age?" And I said, "An adult," because I didn't trust him knowing my age. He already could see the name from the tags we wear on our hats, and that already made me feel nervous that he knows that piece of information about me, plus where I work. He then shook his head like he was disappointed and said, "Okay, well, you're just really attractive. I hope you know that." And I said, "Okay." Then he ordered really quickly and left. The POS saved his full name from his credit card after he placed his order, and my coworker and I looked up his name in the town we're located in on a registered sex offenders website, and it turns out that he has a criminal record on it, which then made me feel sick to my stomach about the whole interaction he was trying to have with me. I had just spent the night at my friend's house in the suburbs along with a group of friends, two females and a male, and the four of us were riding the bus home the next morning after a fun night. Since it was bright and early, I let my guard down, slumped down on the window seat in the mostly empty bus. My friend, female, was sitting next to me on the aisle seat, and our two other friends were sitting across from us. The bus was rocking gently, and I was in a sleeping state when my friend grabbed my hand and squishes it really tight. She wasn't saying anything, but her breathing became fast as if she was panicking. So I turned to her and I saw a piece of meat dangling, and it was attached to an older man in his 50s. And this guy was standing on the side of the seat next to my friend, grabbing her thigh and full on beating his thing while the rest of us slept, and she stood frozen. There were barely any people on the bus. I felt like I wanted to throw up. I got up and pushed the guy's chest as hard as I could, and he stumbled back and tried to keep himself from falling. My friend Male had woken up at that point, and he grabbed the guy by his neck and berated him and called him names. By this time, everyone had noticed the commotion, but unfortunately, this is not uncommon in my country. So people were disgusted, but not surprised. As soon as the next stop came, the guy practically jumped to get out as we all comforted my poor friend. I had forgotten about this story until she reminded me the other day, and the disgust came back and washed all over me.